When you're facing a mountain of debt, it can feel like you're completely trapped. The walls feel like they're closing in. But what if there was a clear map, a way to cut through all the noise and the quick fix promises and find a real path forward? Well, that's exactly what we're going to talk about. So here's our game plan. First, we'll look at why those easy relief offers are so tempting. Then, we're going to pull back the curtain on how debt settlement really works. After that, we'll get into the serious risks they don't tell you about. And then, the good part, we'll explore smarter, safer alternatives. We'll even cover how you can take control and negotiate on your own. Think of this as your roadmap out of that debt maze. You know, if you're feeling that constant stress from rising credit card balances, I want you to know you are so far from being alone. It is a heavy, heavy weight to carry, especially when it feels like you're just treading water. I mean, just look at this number. It's staggering. With everything costing more and interest rates through the roof, literally millions of people are in the exact same boat. And understanding that, that's the first step. Because this isn't a personal failing, it's a financial problem that can be solved. So when you're in that tough spot, you start looking for a lifeline, right? And almost right away, you start seeing these ads that promise a simple, almost too good to be true solution. These are from for-profit debt settlement companies, and their pitch is powerful. They say they'll go to bat for you, negotiate with your creditors, and let you pay back just a fraction of what you owe. Settle your debt for pennies on the dollar. I mean, who wouldn't want that? It sounds like the perfect escape hatch. But how do they claim to pull this off? Let's deconstruct the process they sell to people who are just desperate for help. Okay, so here's the core idea. The goal isn't to help you manage your monthly payments. No, the goal is to get your creditors to agree to a one-time lump sum payment that's way smaller than your total balance. And this is how they pitch it. It sounds so simple. Step 1, they tell you to stop paying your bills. Yeah, you heard that right. This is a massive red flag we're going to come back to. Step 2, you start sending monthly payments to them, not your creditors, and they stash it in an account. And finally, step 3, once you've saved up what they think is enough, they try to negotiate that deal. All right, now for the fine print, the part the commercials conveniently leave out. That simple little 3-step plan comes with a minefield of hidden dangers that can actually leave you in a much, much worse place than when you started. This is probably the most important question you can ask, because that shiny promise of relief, it often comes at an incredibly high price. So, what's this number? What does it mean? Well, according to a major study, this is the average drop in a person's credit score just 6 months after joining one of these programs. A 161-point nosedive. That is absolutely devastating to your financial health. And believe me, the damage doesn't stop there. An industry study found that only about 23% of people in these programs actually end up settling all their debts. Meanwhile, because you stopped paying, your original creditors can, and often do, sue you. The collection calls, they're going to explode. The settlement company takes huge fees, sometimes up to 25% of what you save. And then, here's the kicker. The IRS might see that forgiven debt as taxable income, so you could get out of debt only to get hit with a surprise tax bill. Okay, so that's the trap. It's pretty grim. So what's the escape route? The good news is there are much better, safer, and way more predictable ways to get your finances back on solid ground. It's about taking back control. First, let's get a really key distinction straight. Paid in full on your credit report means you did it, you met your obligation. That's the gold standard. Settled in full, on the other hand, is a negative mark. It's a flag for future lenders that says you didn't pay everything you agreed to. And that little note sticks around on your report for 7 years. This chart really makes the alternatives clear. Look at a nonprofit debt management plan, or DMP. That's where you make one payment to an agency and they pay your creditors for you, usually at a much lower interest rate. See how it stops harassment and has a predictable outcome, and no tax bomb? Now look at the credit score impact. Unlike debt settlement's huge drop, DMPs and even bankruptcy can actually lead to a rise in your score over time because you're solving the problem in a structured, legitimate way. Now, what if you want to tackle this yourself without hiring anybody? Well, you absolutely can. In fact, I think you'd be surprised by how willing some creditors are to work with you directly. Here's a script you can use. Just listen to the tone. It's polite,
It's honest, and it just opens the door for a conversation. You're not making demands, you're just asking for help. And that simple shift in approach can be incredibly powerful.
And when you do make that call, keep these tips in your back pocket. Be calm, be polite. Know your numbers before you even dial, but the most important ones are these. Never ever agree to a payment you can't actually make. And this is the big one. Always get the final agreement in writing before you send a single penny. A promise over the phone just isn't enough.
So as we bring this all home, the biggest takeaway here is about empowerment. It's about knowing you have options so you can make an informed choice for your future.
And here's the fundamental truth of the matter. Your creditors are businesses. At the end of the day, they would much rather work with you to get something paid back than go through all the hassle and expense of collections or bankruptcy where they might end up with nothing. Many have hardship programs, but they don't advertise them. You have to be proactive. You have to ask. Ultimately, what you're facing is a financial problem that needs a solution. It is not a reflection of your character or your worth. The key is knowing the difference between a trap designed to exploit your situation and the real paths that can actually solve it. So the only question left is, which path will you choose?